TGO, Tom Gruenwald Outdoors, is brought to you by HT, premium ice tackle since 1974. Polar Fire Gear, this is how it's done. Tourism Saskatchewan, Canada's best freshwater fishing. Vexilar, ice fishing begins when you turn your Vexilar on. Kalispell, Montana, discovery in every direction. And these other fine sponsors.
Hello everyone and welcome to Tom Gruenwald Outdoors. I'm Tom Gruenwald and today I'm especially excited. We've got the opportunity to come out and fish the beautiful state of Montana, specifically out in the western part of the state near Kalispell. Beautiful mountain backdrop, absolutely astounding trees, just incredible beauty. And also I'm going to have a chance to fish for a unique species, something I've actually never got to catch through the ice before, kokanee salmon. And that's a very popular species. I saw it out here quite a bit, but again, my first time, so I'm going to need a little help, and I think we've got just the right people to help us out. I've got Mike Howe from House Fishing, Able Charters, a guide service here in this Kalispell area. We've got Chancey Jeske from Snappy Sports Center in Kalispell, a native of this area that knows this fishery like the back of his hand, and also Clay Anderson, who works with Mike at Able House Fishing Guide Service and works along quite a bit with Chancey as well over at Snappy's. So we got a great group of guys. Mike, I'm really excited about this opportunity. Thanks for having me out.
Oh man, we're glad to have you, Tom. We've talked about this long enough.
Yes, we have. Well, I'm ready to learn. Can you teach me something about how to find kokanee salmon, how to catch these things through the ice?
Yeah, you bet. You know what we've got here, we're out on Little Bitterroot Lake. We're in kind of a mess here today because it's warmed up over the last couple days, but it's worth it. You know, we're going to chase some fish two different ways out here. Kokanee are primarily zooplankton eaters, but they also adapt to this mysis shrimp that they planted in several lakes around here back in the 60s. And the reason they planted them was to grow a larger kokanee. So the mysis shrimp go to the bottom in the deepest, darkest water they can find. In this case, I'm fishing in 233 feet right on the bottom here. Everybody else around me is fishing the suspended fish that are down 30 to 40 feet. What we use is we use a basic dropper and a tractor kind of rig. And on my long rod here, what I'm using is a little bit heavier weight to help me get down to that 233 feet as quick as I can. And then just a glow hook. In this case, I'm using a tungsten marmuska here. What I've got you set up there with, Tom, is a jigger whopper spoon for an attractor, and about 3 inches below that, we've got a dropper chain and some wax worms or some spikes or maggots, as we call them around here.
Well, he came up and hit that dropper right away.
Yeah.
And just like you say, right up near the hole, that's where he kind of starts fighting
Yeah,
around.
they really kind of get crazy. So that's about an average size fish. What they are, Tom, is they're actually a landlocked sockeye salmon that were introduced here in the, I guess the early 1900s, and just a super popular fish. In fact, Montana originally supplied stocks of kokanee to 4 other western states. They used to take them out of here by the trainload.
I think a lot of people have questions, how do you actually identify these fish? How do you compare, let's say, and identify a kokanee salmon and contrast that to, say, a rainbow trout? Is there any identifying characteristic that really jumps out that says, hey, this is a kokanee?
Yeah, there are. I mean, they look like any other salmon that you'll ever catch, but probably the best characteristic is we call them bluebacks because they definitely have a silver blue hue to them when they first come out of the water. You know, compared to a rainbow that doesn't have scales, these actually have a scale to them. Compared to a cutthroat, it doesn't have the orange slash under its gills and that sort of thing. And the fact that you'll just catch them all day long. Like right now, Tom, we're on fish from 10 to 60 feet. We've got schools, jigging a bunch of guys close together like this and all the commotion we create is the best way to attract those schools into us. Then once they come in and start biting, it's just, a guy can get his limit in pretty short time.
Wow, they are just absolutely beautiful though. That blue and the purple and the silver. Oh, that's fun. Wow, for a short fish, there's a lot of fight in that, let me tell you. What a blast. Hey, we'll be right back trying to catch some more kokanee salmon right here in Kalispell, Montana, right after this.
More fishing action online at tgofishing.com.
Well, first I'm going to catch this.
Yeah.
Got another one going.
Got another one there,
It
Tom.
just came off there by the
Yeah,
ball.
came off. They're soft mouths. You'll lose. You're lucky if you land 3 out of 5. Yeah.
Yeah. But you know, it does seem to work pretty well. Just flash the bait a couple times, trying to draw them in, and then really hold it fairly still. That seems to be the trigger.
Yeah. Sometimes you'll jig the rod and you'll have a fish there, never feel it bite. Other times it'll rip it out of your hand, you know, and so they are a very aggressive fish, but they can be a sneaky fish sometimes too. Now, you know, I'm fishing right on the bottom here in 233 feet of water. So compared to you guys that are fishing these suspended fish, I'm fishing a whole different way with the long rod, sitting it on the bucket. I'm just waiting to see that rod tip just barely dip down. And when it does, I'm gonna set the hook.
A lot of them, there's so many fish there.
There you go, Tom.
Really hooked up.
That nice soft rod sure feels different, doesn't it?
It's fun. It takes a little while to get used to it again. After using that, Maverick's a little stiffer.
Yeah.
And the advantage to this rod is you can definitely feel the hits better.
Yeah.
But in the steeper water with that lighter rod, you have to set the hook a lot harder. So the first few hits I missed. So there's a trade-off there.
Yeah, no doubt.
But no, these longer, lighter perch assault rods, they're a lot of fun, especially with this size fish. They really put a little bit of bend in the rod. Another nice kokanee. I just can't get over how pretty these fish are. Perfect. You know, this longer, lighter tipped perch assault rod's definitely gonna be helping me detect more strikes. The downside of using that longer, lighter tipped rod, even though I'm detecting more strikes, is I've got to make sure I really set the hook hard, because the combination of that light tip and the stretch in this light monofilament, it's a little harder to get a hook set. That heavier action, a little heavier action Maverick rod, I wasn't detecting as many strikes, but I was definitely hooking up a little bit better. So it's a contrast. It's more personal taste than anything, but I'll tell you what, both techniques are effective.
Look at this, Tom.
What do you got there?
This is a pygmy whitefish, actually a native fish out here. We wanted to talk about some native fish. This is one of the problems we have when we're fishing on the bottom for those salmon, is you do end up with these pygmy whitefish. And you know, they're a bottom dweller, deep water. You'll find them anywhere. The funny thing about this is about 10 years ago, when guys really started figuring out that deep water salmon bite, the byproduct of that was the state record pygmy whitefish being broken several times every season. Really? Now, this isn't a state record, but it's not much bigger than this, honestly, measured in millimeters and grams and that sort of thing. But it's a native Montana fish, and it's you know, a member of the whitefish family, typical underslung mouth, that sort of thing.
That's it's kind of a neat little...
Yeah, neat looking mountain fish, you know. We've got the mountain whitefish, then we've got the Lake Superior whitefish, which have been transplanted in a lot of our larger lakes out here, and then the pygmy. So forage fish for bottom dwellers, and a byproduct of fishing deep for those big salmon.
That is neat. That's a pretty fish. There he is. Just had to put a few more grubs on there and kind of cover up that hook tip. Here he comes. Now, one of the tips that the guys have all been giving me, I said, cover up the hook. Don't let that the hook point be exposed. Kokanee don't like that. And I tried a little bit both ways. I pushed some of the maggots up the hook and left the hook point exposed just to see what would happen. And they're absolutely right. I did get a couple bites, but I wasn't catching anywhere near as many fish. Brought this back up, covered the hook point with the maggots, and it definitely made a difference. So they do seem to be a little hook fussy. Gotta be careful about that. You know, some of the guys are using wax worms. I've got some spikes, white ones. Red spikes work as well. But no matter what you're using, cover up that hook point. It tends to really make a difference.
You're watching TGO, Tom Gruenwald Outdoors.
Kalispell is not only a land of beauty, but also of opportunity. We found we weren't the only people on the ice when we arrived in town. The Pond Hockey Classic was taking place at the exact same time we were there. We even took some time and visited some of the sites downtown. The Western Outdoor Store, traditional Western wear, cowboy boots, cowboy hats. The variety was incredible. If you're interested in picking out some Western wear on your trip, this is one of the places you're definitely going to want to stop. In addition, we visited the Conrad Mansion, home of Charles Conrad, the original founder of Kalispell. Now, if you're interested in a tour, check out tgofishing.com for details. They'll make arrangements to make sure you get an opportunity to see this beautiful building. Also, don't forget to check out some of the wonderful places to eat. We stopped at Brannigan's Pub with traditional Irish fare, fantastic food. After we finished up downtown, we decided it was time to get back out onto the ice.
Got a little present for you, Tom.
Oh, nice.
Kind of looks like a walleye, doesn't it?
It does a little bit, yeah. Different mouth.
Make no mistake, this is no walleye. But this, another native fish to Montana. This is actually a native Montana sport fish, is how it's classified. A northern pike minnow. They are a sporting fish. They do give you quite a tussle, but really they're, they're classified as a non-game fish. Not real good to eat, really bony, really kind of stinky. That's why they make good bait.
Now, just out of curiosity, what do you use to catch those?
Pretty much anything that's on the bottom that'll catch a perch or a trout. They're not real picky. They have a very smooth mouth. They always get me. But see, there's no teeth in there or anything like that. It's more of a bottom feeder. But anyway, I got the pygmy whitefish, and now I got the northern pike minnow. So I'm doing my best to show you the native fish.
And now, TGO Tackle Tips with Tom.
All right, well, we were just fishing these kokanee salmon out here in beautiful western Montana. We're on Bitterroot Lake. We were in around 200 feet of water, and we had a massive school of kokanee down maybe 40 to 50 feet underneath the surface of the ice, suspended. Now, we just moved. We're in a little shallower here. We're in about 94 feet, and we're just doing a little search here and seeing again if we can find some of those suspended fish that are feeding on plankton. I'm using a light action Maverick spinning system here with 4-pound test and a jig-a-whopper spoon for a flasher leading down to a Marmuska tungsten diamond lure with a couple maggots on it to fish for these. And I'm feeling bites, and this system is perfect actually in this depth of water for getting a good hook set. However, it is a little difficult to actually detect all of the strikes because the rod is, as a light action, just a little bit stiffer than some of these other systems. Now, I've got Chancey Jeske with me from Snappy Sports Center here in Kalispell. Chancey, thanks for joining us on
Thanks
TGO.
for having me on.
I'm glad to have you. Now, I'm using this light action system. I see you've got one of our perch assault rods that we developed a couple years ago, a longer rod with a lighter tip. And looks like, to me, you're detecting a lot more of these hits with these light biting kokanee.
Yeah, it's worked out really well. I designed it for the perch assault, for fishing tournaments, for hole hopping, and having a little bit longer rod for that, and a nice light tip with some backbone. But to be quite honest, it's taken off more for the kokanee fishermen than it has for the perch fishermen. Being that it's got a really light tip to it, but it has some backbone, so you can get a hook set. You do have to pull up a little harder than like your Maverick there, but it works great. You can feel everything and see every little bite on it, so it's been a great all-around rod for me.
Well, I'm using this lighter action rod here, and you've got what I would call more of a micro or ultralight action with that perch assault system there. Just out of curiosity, a lot of times when we're fishing panfish, we get in situations where we want the stiffer action of the blank for hook sets, but we want to also have the softer tip, and that's for strike detection. Have you ever tried using a spring bobber when you're fishing kokanee?
Usually with these lighter rods, the perch assault rods and stuff, I don't have to put the spring bobber on it because they are light enough. You can see about every little thing, but yeah, lots of guys still using spring bobbers.
Now, with your system that you're using there, the perch assault rod, it looks like you're using mono in the deeper water. If you really get down there for these deep water kokanee, do you make any exceptions? Do you use any of the low stretch lines, like say a braided type line as opposed to the mono?
Yeah, in the shallower water, when we're only fishing 30 to 50 feet down, I'm just running a 4 or 6 pound mono right now, and it seems to work pretty good. If you get into that deeper water like we were fishing earlier, we typically run a braided line. you know, we're in 240, 250 foot of water, and you have to have that braid to feel those bites in that deep water. And then the guys are usually using a little bit stiffer rods, even stiffer than your Maverick, because they're running 1.5 ounce, 2 ounce weights with a little dropper glow hook underneath them to get them down real fast. And then, and that seems to work pretty good.
This is really interesting. There's a couple different systems here for fishing these kokanee, whether you want to go with a little bit heavier, light action type rod, or the light action type rod maybe with a spring incorporated, or trying more of the longer, lighter action rods. Both systems are effective, or I think it's just a matter of personal preference. You know, try a few things out, mix it up a little bit, see how you could do with some of these kokanee.
There we go.
More fishing action online at tgofishing.com.
Well, there you are, Pete.
Hi, Tom. How are you?
I'm doing great. I've been over here talking with Chancey while we're fishing, and we're going over our systems, and he mentioned, you know, for these kokanee, we're using a lot of little spoon and dropper type systems. He said you've developed a couple of really good ones. So I wanted, would you be able to show me those baits?
Yeah, this one here is, this is my favorite, my signature lure for the company. That is the whiptail jig, and it's designed to flutter down there.
Yep.
And the chain is designed so when the fish is sucking, it can just suck that lure, suck it right in.
Sure, so you
into
got
its mouth.
the chain type dropper as opposed to amount of filament, and that's more because you get a little bit of color and flash, right?
Color and flash. It's UV coated.
Yep.
And painted on the other side. Everything's powder coat on these.
Yep.
Here, and then they're UV coated and baked twice actually to get a good rock solid, so they'll stay in your tackle box for a lifetime.
Now, one of the things I really like about this one here on this whiptail is that you've got the shiny flash on the backside, and then you got the paint on the front, and there's a reason for that too, isn't there?
One brings them in and the other one holds them.
But you also have another design, if you're getting some deeper water or if the fish aren't as active, that works more straight up and down. Can you show me that one?
I got this one here. It's called a Scottish pimple.
Okay.
And I got it, with it I have a Sassy Stinger dropper on it. And it's just a little glow outfit here.
Yep.
Powder coated also, built strong. And then the little dropper jig here is a 64th ounce with a little rubber Ratso style tail. I call it the Sassy Stinger. I pour these all up different colors, and this is actually in a super glow and super glow plastic here too.
So we've got two different lure designs there. You got one that flutters off to the side nice, one that goes straight down for different situations. You got something that covers it all.
And what's nice is they're multi-species lures.
Well, those are really beautiful baits. So we see if we can catch a few more kokanee on
Let's see what we can do.
All right. There he is. Just keep the line tight. Here he comes. Boy, this has really been an exciting trip. I've been looking forward to coming out here and fishing in this Kalispell area with Mike and Chancey for a long time. I really enjoy the opportunity to be able to come out and try fishing in a new area for a new species, and every chance I get it that I jump all over it. And the chance to be able to come out and fish for kokanee salmon here in the mountains, wow, what an experience. You know, if you're interested in trying something like this, it really is a lot of fun. These kokanee are not big fish. Your average size probably runs somewhere around 8 to 10 inches. You can keep 20 of these though, 2 over 12 inches. So you can really bring back a lot of fish if you want to. And from what I understand, talking to Mike and Chancey, kokanee are delicious. There's a whole variety of ways you can prepare these fish. And when you get on these schools, it really isn't all that difficult to come out and to catch those 20s. It's more than enough for a meal. Nice sized fillets, perfect for a nice fish dinner. So if you're interested in trying this, I would recommend calling out to Kalispell here, talk to Chancey or ask for somebody at Snappy Sports Center. Let them know what you're interested in doing. They can help get you set up with your fishing license. They can help get you set up with the gear that you're going to need, and most importantly, with the right guides so you can have a safe and a productive trip. Mike over here at House Fishing, Able Charters, he has the people. He's got the gear. He knows the water. He's going to make sure you have a successful trip. So again, until next time, join us again right here on Tom Gruenwald Outdoors, where it's all ice fishing all the time.
TGO has been brought to you by HT, premium ice tackle since 1974. Polar Fire Gear, this is how it's done. Tourism Saskatchewan, Canada's best freshwater fishing. Vexilar, ice fishing begins when you turn your Vexilar on. Kalispell, Montana, discovery in every direction. And these other fine sponsors. TGO, where it's all ice fishing all the time.